wind carried dust across the dying light of the desert. The sun bled red over the mesas, and somewhere beyond the ridge a scream tore through the silence. Elias Boone was mending his fence when he heard it. Sharp, desperate, the kind of cry that could freeze a man's blood. He looked toward the canyon, jaw tight, and kicked his horse into a gallop. The trail twisted through sagebrush and dry rock. He found her there, tangled in barbed wire, her dress torn to rags, skin streaked with dirt and blood. She struggled weakly against the wire, breath coming in short gasps. "Please," she whispered, "cut me free." Elias jumped off his horse, knife flashing in the orange light. "Hold still, miss," he said, cutting the wire away from her wrists. "They'll be back," she gasped, eyes wide with terror. "The men who took me, please hurry." He cut faster. The wire snapped and she cried out, her voice breaking. "Spread it open." "Cut me free." He pulled the last strand loose and caught her before she fell. She trembled in his arms, her pulse fluttering against his chest. "You're safe now," he murmured, but she didn't answer. Her eyes rolled back and she went limp. He took her back to his ranch, cleaned her wounds, and laid her on the old couch near the fire. The cabin smelled of smoke and whiskey. When she finally woke, her first words were a whisper. "Where am I?" "My ranch," he said, kneeling beside her. "Name's Elias Boone. You're safe here." She blinked at him, eyes filled with exhaustion. "I'm Clara Mayfield. My father's a preacher from Abilene." Her voice cracked. "They thought I was carrying gold. They killed everyone. My father, the driver, everyone." Elias looked away, jaw tight. "Gold ain't worth a damn thing compared to your life." She watched him quietly. "Why'd you save me, Mr. Boone?" He didn't look at her. "'Cause I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." Days passed. Clara began to heal. She helped around the ranch, milking the cows, feeding the horses, mending torn shirts by the firelight. She smiled again sometimes. It had been a long time since anyone smiled in that lonely house. Elias watched her from the porch most evenings, the light softening her features as she worked. She was stronger than he'd thought, the kind of strength born from pain. "You ever been married?" she asked one night. He hesitated. "Once. What happened?" "Fever took her. Long time ago. I'm sorry." He gave a small nod. "Ain't your fault. Some things you just ride through." But he hadn't. He carried his grief like a saddle that never came off. One evening, as they sat by the fire, he saw her staring into the flames. "You're thinking too loud," he said with a smile. "I was thinking how strange life is," she murmured. "One moment you're certain you'll die, and the next you're here mending fences." "Life's strange that way," he said softly. She turned to him, her eyes shining in the firelight. "You ever think maybe we're both just trying to get free of something?" He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. The peace didn't last. One afternoon, while Elias was checking the cattle, a sound echoed down the valley. Hoofbeats. He knew that rhythm. Trouble. 3 riders appeared on the ridge. Dust swirled around them like smoke. The leader shouted, "Boone! Hand over the girl and we might let you keep your hide." Elias stepped out of the barn, shotgun in hand. Clara froze behind the door. "She's under my roof," he said evenly. "You want her, you'll have to come through me." The man spat into the dust. "Suit yourself, cowboy." The first shot cracked the air. Elias dove behind the water trough, returned fire. One of the bandits fell from his horse. Another circled left, firing blind. The ranch exploded into chaos. Splintered wood, screaming horses, dust clouds swirling like smoke. Clara grabbed the rifle, leaning by the door. Her hand shook, but her aim was steady. "Elias!" she cried. He turned just as she pulled the trigger. The bullet hit the last man square in the chest. Silence followed. Deep, heavy, final. Elias lowered his gun, chest heaving. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly, eyes wide. "I think so." They buried the bodies by the creek. No prayers. The land had already heard too many. That night the fire crackled low. Clara sat beside him, wrapped in his coat. "I thought I'd never be free again," she said softly. "But you gave me that." He looked at her, his face unreadable. "You gave me something too." "What's that?" "A reason to feel alive again." For a long moment neither of them spoke. The wind slipped through the cracks in the window, carrying the scent of rain. She leaned her head against his shoulder, and for the first time in years he smiled. Weeks turned into months. The ranch began to thrive again. The fences were fixed, the horses strong, and laughter, A rare sound in Dry Creek returned to the valley. Clara wore a white dress now, her scars fading into soft lines. "I used to dream about going back east," she said one morning, standing by the corral. "But now, this feels like home." Elias brushed the dust from his hat. "Home ain't a place," he said. "It's a feeling." "You gave that back to me," she smiled. "Do you ever think about what's next?" He grinned faintly. "Next? I reckon we ride on together." She took his hand, and for a moment everything was quiet. The land stretched out before them, endless, open, free. Years later, folks in Dry Creek still spoke about the rancher and the preacher's daughter. How a man bound by sorrow and a woman bound by fear found each other in a land too wild for love. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right through the valley at sundown, you can still hear the faint sound of hoofbeats, two riders heading west side by side. They say he saved her life. But truth be told, she saved his. And all it took was a voice that whispered through the dust, "Cut me free."